I don't know who needs to hear this, but it's an election year, so I know that someone does. Here's your reminder. Labels are for jars, not for people. One more time, say it with me. Labels are for jars, not for people. Got it? Okay, let's move on. Welcome to Life Talks with Lex, a podcast where we keep it real, raw, and relevant as we explore conscious conversations about the human experience and all of life's conditions. I'm your host, Coach Lex, a self-development and leadership empowerment coach whose mission and passion is to bring more love, joy, peace, and empowerment to individuals on a real level. I have a heavy background in human services, psychology, mental health, behavioral health care, human design, astrology, and much more. I am so glad that you're here and hope you subscribe and stick with me through this season and beyond to be a part of the Conscious Collective. Hey all, welcome to episode 1, season 2 of Life Talks with Lex. We are back. Aren't you psyched? I am psyched to be back. I have missed this show because I am so tired of making short form content on like all the social platforms. It's not me. I mean, I can do it. I've done it. I will continue to do it. It's a great way to get in front of more people and kind of open up the space to form new relationships. But I so prefer long form content. I so prefer diving deep, covering the entire scope of the issue and not just bits and pieces that are digestible for the masses. I'm not here for the masses. I am here for the masses. But if I don't reach the masses, I will continue to show up with what I got and who I am, bottom line. Which kind of leads right into what this whole episode is about. My least favorite questions in life are identifying questions. What are you? What do you do for work? What school do you go to? What's that? Hate them. Hate them, hate them, hate them, hate them. Why do I hate them? Because it limits the collection of energy that make up who we are, that make up what makes us so special, our essence, our essence. You will hear me use that word over and over again, but it's true. What am I? I'm a fucking human, right? Am I right? Please stop asking me that question. As someone who, has tan skin and looks quote unquote exotic, heard that my entire life. I am so over the question, what are you? I'm over it. Please don't ever ask me, what am I? Every single time it will be human or what do you mean? Because what does that mean? I said it in the intro. I'll say it again. We're in an election year. You know what that means. We no longer see ourselves as people. We see ourselves as this or that. Democrat or Republican. What side are you on? We sound ridiculous. Why? Because labels are for jars, not for people. We need to, on this show, in this episode, go back and remind ourselves of the basic principles of life, the basic units of the human experience and of being human, point blank, period. So if you're with me and you're listening to the show, I want you to take off all your identifying hats. Remove them. Every identifying label you use to describe yourself to another person that isn't just about your essence. Remove them and listen with an open heart and an open mind and a lot of awareness. And you may be saying, Lex, I'm really not sure what the difference is. Like, which parts of me are identifiers and which part is my actual essence. Don't worry, we're going to clarify that. But do your best to take off all of the clearly identifiable labels that you've used your entire life to describe who you are. But before we clarify that, I want to just share with you some data, some actual scientific data around social and emotional trends in our society, or at least the US. And I will link these in the show notes, these reports. You can go and read them more in depth yourself, but I just want to give you some of the highlights. So the first piece of data is coming from the U.S. Surgeon General's advisory on the healing effects of social connection and community. This was a report done in 2023 titled Our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation. Because we hear that all the time, right? We have a loneliness epidemic in this country. Yeah, no kidding. I wonder why. Anyway, here is some of the key data. Polls conducted in 1972 showed that roughly 45% of Americans felt that they could reliably trust other Americans. However, that proportion shrank to roughly 30% in 2016. Okay. Some of the other key points of data: the decline amongst young people spent engaging with friends reduced by nearly 70%, over almost 2 decades. Half of Americans in 2021, almost half, reported having 3 or few closer friends, while only about a quarter reported the same in 1990. Across the board, from 2003 to 2020, there's been a decrease in social isolation, in family social engagement, in companionship, in engagement with friends, in engagement with others, in engagement overall, in connection. And what we're seeing is that this disconnection, this decrease in engagement, increases every single year. In 2018, only 16% of people reported feeling attached to their local community. You know, the community that they live in, work in, contribute to, pay taxes in, etc., etc., etc. Why should we care about this? Well, this increases the disconnection, the disengagement, the loneliness epidemic, increases our chance for heart disease, risk of stroke, dementia, depression, anxiety, so on and so forth. So it's kind of a big deal. The other piece of data I'm going to share with you comes from the State of the Heart report of 2024, the world's largest study on emotional intelligence. So that we know what we're talking about as it pertains to this report, I want you to know the report identifies emotional intelligence as being smarter with feelings, accurately gathering emotional data and effectively using it to solve emotional challenges. Okay? Keep that in mind. Here are some of the key findings. There are 6 in total. Again, linked in the show notes. You can go and read the full report if it is of interest to you. But here's what I want you to know. Global emotional intelligence scores have declined for 4 consecutive years. From 2019 to 2023, global average emotional intelligence scores declined 5.54%, and scores on every individual competency that we use to measure emotional intelligence also dropped. The world has entered an emotional recession characterized by low well-being and high burnout. Well-being scores declined for the past 4 years. And Gen Z faces a mental and emotional health crisis fueled by loneliness and social isolation, which they are saying that in the workplace, it is signaling especially high risk for disengagement and burnout amongst younger workers. Okay, Now, why did I just share all this data with you? And what the hell does it have to do with labels and jars and people? When we go through life labeling ourselves as either Democrat, Republican, Catholic, or Christian, black or white, straight or gay, janitor or CEO, the list goes on and on and on and on. When we make those identifying factors that we know to be true, right, about ourselves, when we make those identifying factors our main personality, our main way that we identify ourselves, our main focus, and we feed into that, we separate ourselves and from each other, which in turn contributes to the increase of all of these health issues we face and the decrease in our emotional intelligence, in our awareness, in the quality of improvement in our lives, in our respect for one another, in our ability to move forward, do things differently, collaborate, innovate, create. We are using these identifiable factors as like a suit of armor that doesn't do really anything to protect our true essence. And we'll get more into that in a second, but it really doesn't do anything for us except feed our egos. And what do? We play the I'm right, you're wrong game. I'm good, you're bad. This is correct, that's incorrect. Like we even know. That's what gets me, right? We're all cut from the same cloth. We need to go back, like I said, and remind ourselves that we are all products of the human experience. What two things are true about the human experience? We are living in the human form. We are a collection of energy in the human form. We will all live in the human experience, and then we will all die. Those two things don't change. That is what it means to be human. It also means that we are susceptible to all of life's conditions. So when we over-identify with all of these man-made labels, all it does is divide us from one another and distract us from ourselves, from who we truly are. It's all a big distraction. We are at war with one another over differing beliefs and opinions. Opinion is the lowest form of human knowledge. We all have it. We all have one. We all have them. It doesn't make them true. It doesn't make them yours more important than mine or mine more important than yours. Why are we at odds with one another? Because we are truly at odds within ourselves. That's the harsh reality. And we don't actually want to be disconnected from each other. We don't actually want to be distracted from ourselves. We are hardwired as human beings for connection, for love, for joy. We want companionship. We want to experience closeness, but we are using everything, our religion, our political affiliation, our ethnicity, our job titles, our job titles, our credit scores, our bank accounts, to separate from everyone outside of ourselves and to separate ourselves from ourselves, because truly you are not a credit score. You are not a bank account. I am so sorry that our society has set it up this way in terms of survival. But again, you need to consciously remind yourself that these things are just labels. They're labels. First and foremost, you are human, and that is fucking important. Back in 2015, when I first started this work, when I started my first blog and my first business, it wasn't even really a business, so to speak, but when I when I first started dabbling with self and social awareness education for the public, it was really simple. The concept was really simple. My mission, my vision, my motto back then that I was pushing out was all about soul versus ego. It was feed the soul and starve the ego. This is what we're talking about here. All of these identifiable factors are a part of the ego. The ego has this insatiable appetite and desire and need to identify. Who am I? Who am I? Now, a lot of the work that I do with my clients in my high voltage value program, which is a 10-week one-on-one coaching journey I designed for women. It's usually women that I work with, but also men, designed for individuals to really up-level the value they experience in their work life and relationships. Now, in that program, we do a lot of work around who am I, right? But not with those external identifying factors, with a lot of internal seeking, with a lot of heightened awareness, with getting down to the heart and soul of your essence, which is much different than the I in ego. Ego wants to separate. It wants to divide and conquer. Soul wants to connect. It will naturally connect. It will naturally yield harmony, peace, love, joy when it is nurtured. Ego cannot do that. Ego lives in comparison. It lives in envy. It lives in hatred. It lives in jealousy. It is ugly. It is ugly. Ego loves roles and labels and judgment and comparison and material gain and benefit and personalization. Oh, does it soak it up? It soaks it up. Ego is the thing that comes in and says, good or bad, right or wrong, positive or negative. Soul understands that everything is purposeful. Everything is energy. Who am I to know whether this is right and that is wrong? I am human. I am a collection of energy. I am the awareness of that energy. I am present. I am in the present moment. And I am not reacting to others, to myself from a place of I, but rather responding to myself and others with a sense of love and wholeness and purpose. And when we come from the space of soul and we nurture that, right? We nurture that with our vision, our voice, our values, and the natural born energy we were gifted with. And we use that with a sense of collectiveness, right? Like we come to this podcast because we know we share all of the incredibly beautiful and difficult things that make us all human, consciously human. When we approach life, when we approach each other, when we approach ourselves from that space, there is this universal love and sort of reverence for each other. We see people not as separate from one another, but we see them as our fellow human. Like, you're just my fellow human. It's not up to me to judge the body that you're in, to judge the opinions that you hold or the things that you like, because those things are not who, in a sense, you are. They just aren't. And so when I have love and respect for you as my fellow human, we go a lot further together. We connect a lot more purposefully. We're not in reaction to one another. We're not picking sides because we are on the same side. We're on the same side. We are the same. Whether you are a CEO or a janitor, whether you are Native American or Caucasian, whether you are straight or gay, it does not matter. You are human. And what we've done, what we've tend to do with our political system, with our religious systems, with all of these external outlets and resources outside of ourselves that we use to identify ourselves and separate from this group to the next group, what we've done with that is created levels of superiority and inferiority. And when we think about that, it's kind of crazy, right? Because love, unconditional universal love does not discriminate. It does not discriminate. It does not separate. It recognizes that we all share something. And that is truly a remarkable thing that we take for granted every single day. Why do we have a loneliness epidemic, you ask? It's because we are competing with one another constantly. We're on social media because that's the first thing everyone's going to say. Well, it's the social media keeping everyone from each other, that we're all just scrolling down social media. Of course, that has been a huge factor. COVID-19 has been a huge factor, but social media plays a huge part, but we're still competing on social media. We're all competing out here in the world. Why do we have a loneliness epidemic? Because you have a Biden flag up and your neighbor has a Trump flag and you're both like, look at me, look at the side that I'm on. It's pretty fucking lonely when you have to put up a flag to validate who you believe yourself to be and what you believe in. Why promote it? Why not just believe it and act accordingly? Why do we have to stand with our feet so firmly planted in the soil and announce it, give our opinion on it, hurt another person over it, broadcast it? Why? That's the ego talking. I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, you looking for validation through those external outlets, those external resources, you relying on those external factors and the external people and the government to change the quality of your life is a huge misuse of your time and energy, because your time and energy could be better spent nurturing yourself and therefore nurturing others. I want you to remember that this year, as we grow closer to election season and as tensions grow high in our nation because we're all pissed off about the economy and about multiple issues taking place, I want you to remember that first and foremost, we are all, every single one of us, including the candidates running, we are all just human. So what does that mean? Take off your identifying hats. When you are not a project manager at work, when you retire from that project manager role, who will you be? If your bank account was depleted tomorrow, who would you be? If we experienced a worldwide blackout and no one had access to social media, who would you be? What is it that you are deriving your sense of self and purpose from? Please take a look at it. See, we've overcomplicated it, and it is so simple yet so profound that we are human, that we have a soul and it should be nurtured. I really want you to think about this. I want you to think about who you are without all of the titles, all of the labels, all of the roles that you play in relation to other people, all of your man-made beliefs, political affiliations, religious affiliations, ethnicities, race, background, all of that, I want you to think about who you are. What is your true essence when all of those things are stripped away from you? Who are you? Are you acting in love of and for, to yourself and others? Or are you acting out of fear for yourself and of others? It's really quite simple. Love and fear are the driving forces in our universe, by the way. Anything that we do out of either love or fear. Every emotion is a byproduct of love or fear. And I'm sure you could guess that love is a product of the soul and fear is a product of the ego. You want more connection? You want more harmony? You want to cultivate more love and joy and happiness in your world and your life? You want to work on that anxiety and depression you've been experiencing? Get in connection to yourself, to your soul, to your true essence. Start there and nurture that. And if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, I don't know where the hell to start. I've been married for the last 40 years. I don't even know what I enjoy anymore. I've been a mom for 20-something years. I don't know what I enjoy. I don't know what my true purpose is. My parents made me go to college. No one ever asked me what it was that I truly valued or cared about. No one ever nurtured my essence. What the hell are you talking about? Because let's face it, most of us have never been asked who we truly are. Only what we are and what we do for a living. And that is so sad. But I got you. I got you. You don't know where to start? Use the show notes to find my calendar link and book a free clarity call, a discovery session, whatever I call it these days. Book a free call. One of the things, the talents that I have been gifted with and something that I have continued to practice and put to use is my ability to see the essence, the real, raw, unique essence in people and everything that makes them who they are that they haven't even unpacked yet. And I'm on fire about it because I love seeing people in their pure form. So if you're feeling stuck and you're feeling like, I don't even know where to start, especially men, you experience this a lot. Women too, in our roles as wives and moms. But men, you've been socialized for so long to just identify with the money that you make and the titles that you hold. And maybe the amount of women you sleep with, right? But who the hell are you? Book a call. I'm here to support you. I'm here to support all of you. This show is made for all of us. This is a conscious collective space about the human experience and all of life's conditions. All that we share on the premise of being human. And I am so grateful that you're here. I love you guys. Until next time. If you enjoyed today's episode of Life Talks with Lex, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. To stay up to date on all the latest from Coach Lex, you can find me on Instagram at AlexisChristieCoaching or shoot me an email, alexischristiecoaching@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or topics you'd like to see explored on Life Talks with Lex. I look forward to hearing from all of you, and I look forward to the next conscious conversation.